When Sophie opened her eyes, she glanced at the clock and realized she'd been asleep for over 3 hours. It was past noon. She couldn't remember the last time she'd slept that late. Well, yes, she could, but she preferred not to. She grimaced and sat up. She went into the little yellow bathroom and splashed cool water on her face, and just generally freshened herself up a bit. Not too much. She wasn't concerned with impressing the asshole, just trying to get him to work with her. She pulled her long mass of brown curls up and secured it loosely with a clip. Then she stepped into her sandals and headed out. She crossed the road, and the first thing she noticed was Calder in his driveway, hunched over the engine of the ugly blue car she'd noticed the other day. It was some kind of classic car, lots of chrome. Calder's back was to her, and she hated herself a little for admiring the view. Sophie walked up the driveway, scuffling her feet a little in the gravel so she wouldn't startle him. Though why she cared was beyond her. When she was a few feet away from him, Calder stood up straight and slowly turned around, those icy eyes watching her every move as she made her way toward him. He picked up a rag and started wiping grease off of his fingers, gaze still fixed on her. Sophie stopped a couple of feet in front of him. "Do you have a minute, Calder?" she asked softly, trying not to sound emotional or put out, even if she did kind of want to claw his eyes out.
"I was expecting you sooner than this," he said.
"I needed some time to calm down," she answered. "Look, I know you don't want neighbors, but I swear I'm quiet. I'll keep my goats away from you, and you'll never even know I'm here." He didn't say anything, just watched her with that hard look in his eyes. "We can work out some kind of payment thing. I mean, you paid a lot for it, and it'll take time, but I swear I'll pay it. I'll get another job, or—" He held his hand up. "Stop." "Please," she said quietly, looking into his eyes. He looked away, shook his head.
"You're the only neighbor I have. I get you out of the way. I've got 100 solid acres that are all mine."
"Calder, that house has been in my family for over 200 years. I need it. It's the first place I've ever felt belonged to me. Please," she said again, and hated the desperate note that had crept into her voice.
"It really means a lot to you, huh?"
"It does." He was looking down, and his eyes started slowly but surely making their way up her body. She forced herself to remain calm, to not run at the way he looked at her. So many memories, enough to make her want to puke, enough to make her wish she'd brought her gun.
"How much are you willing to do to save it?"
"I'm not a whore, Calder," she said.
"I never said you were."
Calder stood there watching her. He hadn't meant to make that implication about her sleeping with him. His senses were out of whack, standing there with her, just as they'd been the day he'd found her goat in his yard. That mass of dark, shining curls, brown eyes, soft curves everywhere. The kind of body that gave a man plenty to hold onto, soft places to sink into. The smell of her, something clean and wild, warm. The memory of her kissing him, what felt like a lifetime ago. "Focus," he reprimanded himself. This was what she was. Letting her bewitch him, throw him off of his goal, would be foolish.
"I knew your property was in trouble before I moved into my place. In fact, it's what prompted me to move back after all this time."
He watched as her expression hardened, as her shoulders went rigid. "Why?" she asked, in a voice that shook just a little.